I don't think the usability of a thrusting-only skill is going to be that viable. So I think that in general, it shouldn't be just thrusting that is talked about in that skill. If it's actually going to be implemented at all, of course, which I highly doubt, but you know. Hello and welcome back to the Ronin and a familiar enemy once again. We have the Crusade attempting to stop me from taking my Isaiah once more. I've actually started to try a little bit of a different strategy in these sieges as well, because the main purpose of a siege, at least for me, is to try and reduce the amount of defenders. Obviously 392 is not what's actually inside the garrison here, but the point is, being able to reduce defenders is going to make it much easier for us to just go in there and take it. And I thought to myself, if I use ballistas, which I would assume not going to be able to attack the walls, and instead they're just going to focus on enemy siege equipment, that might make more sense. However, the enemy is now starting to use ballistas as well. And ballistas versus ballistas, probably a little bit redundant. So I'm going to then change and switch things up, and I might try to use a couple of fire onagers or something like that, because I'm hopeful that maybe I can use something that is going to be just enough in terms of its HP to be able to survive long enough for me to get 4 of them up at once, and then hopefully I'll be able to build something behind that to hopefully assist us with destroying the walls, or just in general inflicting more casualties to the defenders. That's the main thing that I really wanted to do here. Anyway, we're going to tell our cavalry and our horse archers just to charge in here, because there's a reason why I left them all the way over there, because I thought the enemy, if they're going to come on this side, which indeed they did, they usually do tend to send their cavalry on the left side of us when we first appear on the battlefield. So it really made a huge difference to our effectiveness there. Anyway, I've taken a look at Bannerlord perks. It's actually up and running again, so that's nice to know, because apparently they were having some issues. I'm not entirely sure, probably just maintenance. But other than that, I have looked at 1.5.7, and it is looking extremely exciting, because 1.5.7 has pretty much almost every perk. Almost every perk is implemented, including the engineering tree. Yeah, I'm very excited about checking out the engineering tree, to be honest, because I have not seen any of the new perks that they might have implemented, because let's face it, they're not going to leave it the way it is right now. If they leave it the way it is now, then that is a huge mistake, and you know, they need to do something about it, in my opinion, because having one line of perks, I feel like that's just limiting the whole experience a great deal, and I don't believe that is how they're going to leave it. I feel like they're going to do exactly the same thing that they did with the other skill trees, and they're just going to, you know, continue fleshing them out, continue adding secondary effects, and adding 2 different paths for you to take in these particular skills. Now, that's the thing. I personally feel like if they wanted to go even further, I'm not entirely... They're probably not going to do this, of course, but if they wanted to go even further, I would say having the ability to select from, I don't know. I basically what I'm suggesting is something like a perk list or a perk tree that is not limited to only those, you know, those 2 selections in that particular skill level. For example, let's just say you're playing, I don't know, let's say you're playing a different kind of RPG. Let's say you're playing like, I don't know, Fallout New Vegas, or if you're playing, I don't know, Divinity Original Sin 2 or something like that. Technically, in that, in those games, you have a wide variety of different things that you're going to be able to spec into, and you're not limited by, you know, whichever tree you're gaining skill in. You know, it's going to unlock something every single level, no matter what you're speccing into. Although, obviously, you're, you know, in the case of Divinity Original Sin at least, you're going to be unlocking something that is to do with your class. So, for example, let's say you're playing a Necromancer or something like that, or someone that hits things very hard, so a Bonk Warrior, for example. Then you are, of course, going to have skills that are to do with that. However, you can go off the beaten path. You know, you can go off the beaten path and you can decide, hey, you know what? I'm actually not going to do the standard warrior archetype. I'm going to create something that is more like a life-stealing warrior that can use life-draining powers or something like that, and can use a wide variety of magic. So kind of like a not a battle mage, so to speak, but more of like a different kind of RPG archetype. You know, something like, you know, something along those lines. I think that sounds really fun. Now, in Bannerlord, I feel like something like that could work very nicely. So, for example, let's say, I'm not talking about magic here either, by the way. That is for the modding teams to implement, because let's face it, the developers of Bannerlord are not going to implement magic, I don't believe. But anyway, point is, if you have, let's say, I don't know, let's say, let's keep it simple. So let's say you have, I don't know, 50 in two-handed and 50 in athletics. And let's say you level up and you gain 3 skill points, or perk points as they are, well, kind of then, focus points. Let's say you gain 3 focus points. And in the case that I'm attempting to try to suggest here, you have a list of things, a list of skills that you're going to be able to then unlock, determined by your skill levels in those things. So, for example, there's probably going to be, you know, some skills that are unlocked at level 25, some skills that are unlocked at 50, 75, 100, 125, and so on and so on. But you also need to have a number of other skills that also relate to those. And so, if you have something that is extremely you know, extremely cool sounding. Like, for example, let's say you're playing a rogue and you're wanting to use daggers or something, and they give you a backstab skill or something along those lines. Then you're going to have one-handed, roguery, and athletics. And let's say you have athletics at 50, one-handed at 100, and roguery at 75 or something along those lines. Then you're going to be able to take this perk, which is no doubt going to be called backstab or sneaky bastard of a person or whatever, you know, someone that's going to stab people in the back. And if you're using, let's say, while you have a dagger equipped, or while you have a shorter sword than 70 reach or something along those lines, every single attack that you do from behind does, like, I don't know, 500% increased damage or something along those lines. Something crazy like that to make it worth it to aim for these kinds of skills. And that's what I'm trying to impart here. Any kind of option like that where you can basically have free reign to create your character however you like, and you're not railroaded into these options. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, by the way. I'm not saying that the way that the developers of Bannerlord have done this is bad. I think this is actually very cool. But bear in mind that this is just two options, and you can see here that most of the time I'm actually going to the top. That's actually kind of... What? Why is that? Wait a minute. Is my character bugged out? Is my character bugged out somehow? No. Slightly increased. What? Okay, wait a minute. Is my character bugged? Because I have taken every single skill in the top perk list? I've actually just noticed this. Is this real? Is this real life? I don't know. Because did I really not realize that I was doing that? And that, I think that is actually glaring. That is a glaring omission on the part of the developers right there. Because if a player thinks, well, at least in my case, because I might be a bit foolish sometimes, you know, I might be a bit foolish, but in general, if a player is only going to be taking the top skills in every single tree that I can click on right now, look at this, every single tree I have taken a perk in the top line. Every single one. I cannot believe this, actually. I am super surprised. So that means all of these at the bottom here are no good. At least some of them are good, but it really depends on what you want to select. For example, decreasing your armor weight by 30%. I think that's really good. Weapon handling while on foot is increased by 10%. That's also good, but obviously we're on a horse, so that makes no difference to us. But I can't believe that. That is actually hilarious. It feels to me like I have a pre-made character now, and that I have not customized him at all. That's what it feels like, which is actually kind of sad, because in that case, that kind of makes me feel like I haven't really leveled him up or done anything with him of note. It feels to me like he's just auto-allocated most of his perks, and that's not what you want out of an RPG, is it? No, you want it to feel like this is your character, you know, and these are your skills that you've chosen, and it will then make your character into more of a unique feeling experience than person A, B, or C may have made their characters, and that's the reason why I was actually suggesting that whole new way of speccing your character, because, well, as it is right now, you only have 2 options in each of these skills, which is fine and everything, but I feel like it could be expanded upon in a very, very cool way. But anyway, who knows, maybe mods will do it or something, because I don't think the developers will. But that's actually kind of... I'm shocked, actually. I'm somewhat shocked about that. I really did not imagine that was going to be a thing. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, I don't know, I was looking over the perks right there, and I was thinking to myself, really, did I really select all of these? You know? Because I was maybe thinking that there was a bug or something, you know? A bug that was choosing these perks for me after I logged back in at one point, and maybe a mod or something interfered with my perk selections and then made it made it possible for that to occur, but it's not. It is quite obviously not, which is insane. Can't believe it. All right. Well, apart from my quite obvious astonishment at that, not entirely sure why that would have happened, to be honest, but okay. Anyway, we are going to try and win this battle. This is actually a very hard one. This is a very, very difficult battle, because we are now going to have to deal with the enemy when they have a very similar combat strength to us. And you know me, when dealing with the Khuzait, I am pretty terrible at winning against them at the best of times, but I will be attempting to do so here, right now, and we're going to see what we can do. Oh, nice. We took him off his mount. And, yeah, anyway, so speaking about the perks in 1.5.7, they have implemented pretty much all of them, with the exception of a couple being partially implemented, and some of them are, I think, like 1 or 2 are not implemented at all. So obviously there's still a little bit of work to be done there, but they are working on them, and quite clearly they've been working very hard on them. Especially, I need to look at the engineering tree after this, actually, on bannerlordperks.com. I really need to check it out, because I haven't even seen that in game yet, you know, because obviously I'm playing this version at the moment, but I'm very interested, extremely interested to see what they've done with the engineering tree, and indeed the roguery tree too, because I took a look just before I started the recording, and the roguery skill, the final perk is a little bit, I don't know, I feel like there's a very small amount of perks that you can take where you feel, wow, I'm dramatically going to be changing how I play this character now, just due to that perk. And that's, I feel like that's a bit, you know, a bit sad, because everything has a price, okay? I've talked about this before, and if you are a trader character, or if you've played a trader character, or if you've seen my trader series, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But everything has a price is one of the most fun and most game-shattering skills that you can get. It's super, super cool to play with, and indeed, it does change how you play the game fundamentally, which is exactly what one of those skills at that skill level should do, at least in my opinion. And upon acquiring that, you are literally changing how you think. You're changing absolutely every single thing about what you're doing in the game at that point, and that's what I want these final skills to do. Whereas the roguery skill, it doesn't really do that, unfortunately. I feel like the developers have gotten into a bit of a bad habit about making these final skills rather, well, I don't want to be too harsh, because I feel like they're working hard, but generally, okay, here's the thing. This is my honest opinion here. I've basically only been honest about the development of Bannerlord so far. And I'm going to continue, to be honest, obviously, because if I'm not honest, then things are not going to potentially change or improve or whatever. So I'm going to try and speak my mind whenever I can, considering I'm a person that has played the Mount & Blade series for almost 10 years, actually, now. Yeah, okay, yeah. Don't talk to me about my skills in the game, by the way. That's not, that has no application here, thank you. You can show yourself the door. I'm just kidding. Anyway, you can critique me as much as you want, I don't mind. But anyway, point is, what I'm trying to say is, these final skills for roguery and a number of other skills, perk trees, should we say, are really not that fun. Basically, the roguery one is every single point after 200 provides you with additional loot. And that's it. And I thought to myself, yeah, do I care? I mean, this is a 275 skill level perk. And it's supposed to be the ultimate ability of this particular proficiency. And it gives me I think it's 1%. It gives me like 1% more loot for every point or something like that. I'm actually not entirely sure specifically, but we're going to take a look at it after this on Bannerlord perks, and then I'll tell you more specifically what's going on with that. But it is quite peculiar. I'm not entirely sure why they would have done that, because other games are also somewhat guilty of this too, and one that is glaringly right in my face right now, right in my mind, is Borderlands. I don't know whether you know of that game. I think you probably do, because it is extremely famous. But Borderlands also has this kind of issue. There are a number of skills, and indeed perks and traits and what have you, in Borderlands that also share this kind of problem, where you are going to be attempting to take game-changing skills, and you're going to want your character to feel unique and fun to play, and so on. But most of the skills in that are all passive percentage increases in some way or another, or a reduction in cooldown, or whatever, Either one, doesn't really matter. But in those cases, it is kind of boring, It's kind of boring. I feel like in those particular games, you really do need something that is going to shake things up. And that's what Everything Has a Price does. I'm going to actually leave the siege here. That was perfect, by the way. Drawing those people in at exactly that moment. Very, very nicely done. Unfortunately, we weren't able to take Myzea, but we got something else done very, very nicely, which is indeed weakening the opponent so significantly that we can now just move on and have a grand old time picking them off at another point. Anyway, let's make my way back to Onira. Oh, wow, we actually leveled up. Wow, okay. That's actually pretty rare. Oh, look at that. The next. That's also something I feel needs a bit of a tweak. But anyway, it's going to take 2 million experience for me to level up to the next level, which is level 34. All right. Well, I guess that's fine. I can't really do much about it. Anyway, Steward skill, I don't really care about this. As you can see, your food consumption, wages, and combat morale loss decrease by 0.5% per skill level above 200. Again, it's one of these. It doesn't really... I mean, yeah, this is a pretty powerful skill. It is powerful, but it's just a flat percentage increase. Doesn't really excite me, doesn't really inspire any kind of gameplay change in me. It's just a good, solid improvement. And I'm not berating them. I'm not saying that shouldn't be the case. I'm saying that I feel like it can, something can be done a little more. There can be something more there, that would actually help us. I'm going to spec into crossbows, actually, because I'm kind of hankering to be a little bit better at crossbows, and I'd like to see some of these later skills here, but Yeah, so those percentage increases, I mean, if you take a look at these skills, just look at this. This is also something that does exactly the same thing. Riding skill. Increase your charge damage and maneuver by 1 for each 10 riding skill over 200. Now that actually could be quite fun, okay? Because charge damage at the moment is pretty low. It's around, I don't know, between 5 and 10 dependent on the horse. Maneuver doesn't really matter in my opinion that much, but charge damage could be quite fun to use there. And for each 10 riding skill, oh, okay, so it's not going to go into ludicrous levels or anything like that. But once you have riding skill at 275, that's going to give you 7 points. Yeah, it's going to give you 7 points in charge. So let's say you have a horse that gives you 5 charge, and then you add 7 to that, that's 12. No, I mean 12 charge damage versus 5 charge damage, a 275 skill level perk doesn't really make that much difference in my opinion. Otherwise, what do we have here? Ooh, now this might actually be cool. Athletics. You stun enemies longer after they block your attack. That sounds good. And also gaining +1 health for every athletic skill over 250. That actually sounds really good. Yes, good work. I like this. I like whoever designed this particular one. This is very good. Yes, yeah, I like that a lot. That's very cool. Also, the legendary chance to gain a weapon with smithing, I think that's pretty fun too, but a 5% chance is quite low, but I guess you're just going to have to continue, continue smithing as much as you possibly can. So that's pretty fun too. Projectile speed with throwing weapons and a damage increase with throwing weapons. Not particularly fun, but might be, I mean, it's definitely going to be useful. Every skill point after 200. Okay. Well, that could be very cool, actually. That could be very cool, but again, it's still just not really changing how you play or anything. Same thing with the crossbows, and the same thing with bows as well. It feels like they've just copy-pasted all of these, which is a bit sad. Oh, they're doing the same thing with the polearms too? Okay. I'm kind of surprised about that. Oh. I'm wondering whether these are placeholders, actually. They might be placeholders, so I might be complaining about nothing, but let me actually just take a quick look at bannerlordperks.com. I'm actually looking at it right now, so let me see. No. Wait a minute. 1.5.7. Let me actually just select the... No, it is exactly the same. All of the final perks are exactly the same as what you've just seen on my screen right now. That is actually kind of... I wouldn't say worrying, but I would say it's a bit disappointing, because... they've made some really fun ones, like, for example, athletic skill right here. That's super fun. Smithing skill, super fun. But these top skills right here, one-handed and so on, these are all pretty boring. I don't know why they did that. Party speed increased by 0.1% for every skill level over 200. So at 210, you gain 1%. That's actually pretty good. I would say that's pretty good, but again, not exactly exciting or anything like that. Okay, so they have the same skill here for roguery as the ultimate skill, which is increasing the loot amount by 1% for every skill point over 200. So this is actually really, really good, but I would like to have something else. I feel like there should be something else in this tree. Like, if you are someone that has done so much in roguery that you have 275, and with the base game having such a slow rate of experience gain, it's going to take you forever to get to 275. It really is. But I think that in general, if you get to 275 with any particular skill, you should gain some sort of unique interaction with the game world. And in the case of roguery, I think you should gain something like, I don't know, creating your own bandit hideout where you can design your own troops that are bandit-based. And then you can give them gear or something like that. I mean, we had the opportunity to do that in mods in Warband. And I feel like it should be possible to do that in Bannerlord as well. Obviously, I am not a modder. I don't know pretty much anything about it. But there are some very talented individuals in the modding community in Mount & Blade, specifically in the Mount & Blade franchise, and, well, in every other game actually as well. There are a lot of people that really know what they're doing, and I feel like the developers could do that. I feel like they could definitely add these kinds of functionalities, and especially having something like that where you can create your own bandit hideout. I mean, it's going to be extremely powerful, don't get me wrong. It's going to be very, very powerful to do that. And to be able to, you know, create your own units and so on, and to equip them with whatever gear that you want to equip them with. But I feel like it's possible, and definitely a solid reward for the amount of work that you've put in, for the amount of time and effort that you've put in to level up that roguery skill. I mean, it's just insanity how much time you'd need. Because I know some people have been talking to me in the comments about how they've been leveling up their trade skill, and it took them over 1,000 days. 1,000 days to level up your trade skill without any mod assistance. And they literally said it's boring, you know, it's boring. They don't want it to be boring, right? That's not what the game is about. It shouldn't be boring in that way, you know. Maybe sometimes, yes, okay, there's definitely not going to be action, or intriguing situations happening all the time. But I feel like the skills should support the player having fun. And I feel like roguery, or in the case, maybe engineering could, you know, allow you to create like a castle or something like that, you know. And I'm not talking about a bandit hideout being an extremely well fortified base of any kind, by the way. I'm not talking about it being a town or something, but just like a ramshackle, on the spot kind of structure that is maybe unattackable potentially, maybe untargetable by the opponent, because otherwise that would be a bit of a pain. But just a little place that you can hide out, you know what I mean? Something like that would be pretty cool. But obviously this is just wishful thinking on my part, and it's highly unlikely that the developers will implement this. But who knows? Maybe now that I've put it out into the universe, maybe the universe will deliver my message, and they will then think, oh yes, that sounds like a really good idea. And that's the thing. There are a number of other perks that I was quite positive about too. For example, the Athletics Ultimate perk. That is actually quite cool. I like it quite a bit. Obviously creating your own legendary weapon. I have not really done that, I don't believe, because I don't think there's any way of telling whether it's legendary or not. I'm actually not sure. Maybe they've added something that kind of gives you a little heads up about that. But yeah. I think something needs to be done about these perks, especially the top 6 skills. The top 6 skills are basically just flat percentages, and that is not the most fun in the world. Gotta say that. You know, if you want the game to be good, then you've gotta provide your feedback in these ways. And while I love this game, you know, I think that this game is absolutely fantastic, and it has only become better, I feel like it could be even better than it already is. And I know a lot of people are a bit disappointed by how the game has turned out. However, with 1.5.7, a lot of the perk trees are fully fleshed out. I'm talking about one-handed, two-handed, polearms, bows, crossbows, throwing, riding, athletics, smithing, scouting, charm, leadership, trade, steward, and medicine. They are all above 90%. And in some cases, they are at 100%. In other words, all of them are fully implemented and working correctly as intended. However, the only 3 perk trees that are not fully implemented are tactics, roguery, and engineering. And I personally feel like that's absolutely fine. No problem at all there. As long as they take their time, make sure that it's all working good, then I think we can wait for it, you know? I think we can definitely wait for it. I mean, we've waited, you know, we waited like, I don't even know how long, 10 years or something? No, 8 years? Yeah, I think 8 years for Bannerlord to come out. I think we can wait a little bit longer for the perk trees to be done though. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm certainly patient enough to do that. I know that some people are not, which is absolutely fine. People are different, but generally, I feel like they've done a good job. And I think that the only thing that needs to be done is a little bit of tweaking here and there with the perks. Obviously, I've already said that, and maybe a little bit of tweaking with the Crusade as well. I feel like the Crusade generally are quite strong in almost every aspect of the game, and I suppose that was the same for it was the same for Warband as well. In the case of the I was going to say Sturgians for some reason. No. The Swadians. The Swadians also had a very similar feel to them that the Khuzait have at the moment. Although, maybe not so much of a monstrous, overwhelming power sort of thing going on. Because the thing with the Swadians is that you could probably get a bit of an advantage on them, but it would be extremely difficult to do that with campaign AI on high. The way that the campaign AI worked was very brutal in Warband. It would basically make it so that your enemies. Of course I hit the wall. Yeah, great. Anyway, it would basically make it so that your enemy's armies would immediately get their units back almost instantaneously, and then they would come charging at you again. It was a little bit unrealistic and kind of frustrating at times, because you don't really want to grind away at the same person coming back at you all the time. And in that game, you didn't have 100% chance to capture your opponent either. So there would always be that unknown element whether you would even capture them to begin with anyway. So there's also that. So yeah, that's the reason why I'm very I'm positively providing feedback as much as I can here. Even if it doesn't get heard by anyone on the development team, I don't really care, because all that matters is that I'm putting it out there, and maybe some of you also agree with me, and who knows what's going to happen then, who knows. But yeah, okay, so before we actually move on from Akisa Castle right here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the engineering tree on bannerlordperks.com, and I'm going to see if there's actually... they have... Oh, yes, they have expanded it. Oh, this is very nice. So they have two different choices. I'm not going to read through them all, because you can very easily go to bannerlordperks.com, and you can look at it yourself if you want to. But some of these are very cool, like ranged troops have 50% more ammunition when besieging, 50% increased build speed for castle projects, and so on. Rams and siege towers have 33% more hit points, and so on. But again, these are very much a case of percentages, which is all fine and dandy, but it is still not particularly exciting to unlock them. At least they are going to be useful, but they're not going to be something that I'll be gushing about, because trade skill, everything has a price. I gush about that every single time I mention it, and I'm sure everyone's tired of it by now, but it is true. It is true. Anyway, the ultimate skill for engineering is every 1 skill point over 250 increases siege engine campaign damage by 1%. And obviously that's a 275 skill, so it technically gives you a 25% damage increase when the siege engine is on the campaign map. So basically when you're bombarding the walls, they do 25% extra damage, which I gotta say is actually pretty good. I feel like 25% extra damage is pretty good, but again, it is just a passive skill that doesn't really interact with the game world at all. And while I think that the bonus is good, because 25% is actually quite significant, it is it's not going to, you know, blow my mind or anything like that, which I wish it would. I wish it would, definitely. What about leadership? Does that have anything cool? Every skill increase after 250 gives you +1 party size. Okay, absolutely useless. What about roguery skill? No, that hasn't changed at all. It's not even implemented roguery skill, by the way, in 1.5.7, so there's obviously nothing to worry about there. But there's a number of other very, very fun skills in the roguery tree. I can see a bandit. Oh yes, I can see a bandit lord in the horizon. Oh yes, in the far horizon right now. And I'm thinking I'm definitely gonna. Oh yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it, and maybe once the roguery tree is a little bit more fully implemented, I'm gonna be dropping that. Oh yes, I'm gonna be dropping that on your heads, not in a brutal way, but I'm gonna be dropping that, and hopefully you're gonna like it, because I'm very excited about the roguery tree in general. I feel like it has a lot of potential, and I hope that they do a good job implementing it. And I'm looking forward to it. Certainly looking forward to it. And especially with some mods like Scum and Villainy, for example. Scum and Villainy is probably going to be a staple mod for those of us that may want to create some kind of criminal character. And, I mean, obviously, there was a mod a long time ago that I played with the Bannerlord series called, I think it was called Bannerlord, actually. I think it was called Bannerlord. And it allowed you to create your own hideout. And, oh, actually, no, it didn't allow you to create your own hideout. It allowed you to recruit bandit units from the bandit hideouts that were spawning on the map. So that was really, really cool. The interaction was super fun, and you could gain a huge amount of really nice units. And I'm talking about very, very strong units. And you could recruit people, and it would just be so much fun. Huge amount of fun in that mod. Anyway, I'm going to try and take... oh, should I even bother try taking that? Yeah, I'm going to try taking this. Let's see how it works, because obviously there's an army nearby, but I'm not entirely sure if it's going to work at this point. But we'll try our best, at the very least, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so bear in mind that there's obviously an army running around with about 500 units or something like that, and I don't really want to get attacked by that, so if it does appear, I'm probably going to run away. Like a very brave man, indeed. But yes, I'm going to run away in that case, because I don't really want to fight another one of those armies, because it's going to result in a lot of casualties, in my opinion. What I'm going to also do is I'm just going to go into some of our companions' parties here, and basically just give them a bunch of units. Oh, yeah, this is exactly the reason. Oh, there's so many people. What? Why are there so many leveling up? Oh, I really need to get party screen enhancements. I feel like that should have definitely been something that I installed before I started this series. It would have made a huge difference to how fast I was able to level things up. Anyway, let's just give her this. I don't really want to take any of these random units like the Imperials. I'm going to keep the Tetsujin, of course, Khuzait, Sturgians, Khuzait, Imperials, Mercenaries, and so on. These can all go. And there we are. Okay, fantastic. Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. All right. So let's see what happens here. So far, we're not doing too badly. We've got 43,000 left on the walls, and we're going to vote for the owner of this. I don't really mind about this, to be honest, but getting some charm skill is always good. And I'm a little bit worried about giving these things to other vassals, because I always think, oh, you know what, they're gonna leave, you know, they're gonna leave as soon as they get a castle or a town or something sufficiently useful. Then they're going to be like, okay, see ya, and then they'll just, you know, go stabby in the back. But yeah, I personally feel like a skill in the roguery tree, like that backstab thing that I was talking about, I think that could be super fun, because it's going to actually interact with the game on such a nice level, because it's going to influence how you fight. And yeah, okay. Now, in the grand scheme of things, you're usually not able to get behind your opponent. Usually that's not something that you're ever able to do unless your opponent is focusing on someone else. So for example, in a tournament, if your opponent is attacking one of your teammates or some other opponent, then you have the opportunity to attack them from behind. However, that's also something that you could do something about. As the developer, what you could do is you could add in like an active bash skill, or something along those lines, an active bash skill that you activate with E, which you would normally activate with, you know, you'd normally use that for kicking and stuff like that. But let's say you had a blunt weapon, and you were then going to use, you know, this special ability that you unlocked somehow, and then you stun the opponent. You stun them. You literally stun them. So in a duel situation, you could stun them for, I don't know, how long would it take to get behind someone? Probably like 2 seconds, maybe? It depends on your athletic skill, of course, but let's say that you stun them for 3 seconds. Not anything too powerful, but just enough, right? So you stun them for 3 seconds, and then you switch weapon while you're moving, and you switch to a dagger. And then you take that dagger, and then you go and you stab them. And I'm not talking about a thrust here, I'm just talking about, in general, any kind of attack. Because I think that it would be... I think it's a bit too harsh to expect players to be able to thrust in such a way in a very short amount of time. I don't think the usability of a thrusting-only skill is going to be that viable. So I think that in general, it shouldn't be just thrusting that is talked about in that skill. If it's actually going to be implemented at all, of course, which I highly doubt, but you know, I don't think it should be thrusting only. I think it should be just something like when attacking from behind, your weapon less than 70 reach does 300, 400, 500% more damage or something along those lines, because it's rewarding your risk that you're taking to pull off this maneuver. And it just adds so much more strategy and tactics and so on to combat itself. And I think that a lot of people, maybe including yourself, would like that, because I know a lot of you do actually really like all these kinds of tactical options when it comes to entering combat. And I think that this is just going to make it even better, because that's the point. Do you just want to do this? I mean, do you just want to do overheads all day? I'm not entirely sure. I mean, if there's an active skill or something that can be added in, I think that would be really, really nice. But I obviously have no idea whether that's even possible with the current game engine or anything like that. But they have the kick. That's the point. They have the kick. And if they can try to implement something similar, but a little bit more usable, because let's face it, I personally feel like the kick is... I don't know. I know a lot of people swear by it, and they say that the kick is a really good mechanic, but I've never really been able to use it. In all my years playing Mount and Blade, I have scarcely used the kick, and when I have used it, it has failed me completely. So I'm not entirely sure if it's just my own ineptitude. Probably, you know, probably. But for the most part, I feel like the usability of it is very limited. So it would be nice if there was something a little bit easier to use for those of us that may not be the most proficient at combat. And so that's the reason why I say maybe like a bash, maybe something like that. Maybe, oh, you know what? I've just thought something. Maybe instead of an active skill, it could be a passive percentage chance that increases dependent on how much weapon proficiency you have in one-handed, for example. So let's say you have, I don't know, 150 in one-handed, and you've just gained a skill that allows blunt weapons a 35% chance or something to stun the opponent for 3 seconds. But it can only stun once per opponent, because otherwise it would be way too overpowered, because it would allow people to get stunned indefinitely. And that's obviously, you know, we don't want it to be imbalanced. We want it to be balanced, and we want it to be fun and dynamic, and that's, in my opinion, the way to do that. But again, I have no idea whether this is even, you know, actually possible to implement. So I'm just talking about pipe dreams right here, but maybe you agree with me, you know? I feel like that could be quite fun, you know? Because then you're a rogue. You're running around. You have sneaky guys helping you out. You're criminal. You know, you've got a criminal activity going on all over the place. And you have, I don't know, 2 weapons that you primarily use. A club of some kind or a mace, something like that. And then you have your short sword or your dagger. And you use your blunt weapon mostly to get the stun off. And then you switch to your other weapon. And you go stab, and then it kills the guy. And I feel like that could be so much fun. Ah, yeah, I'm getting excited about something that's not even in the game. Terrible, isn't it? Anyway, that is going to be it for this episode. We actually did pretty good, even though I was, you know, talking about all kinds of other things. But yeah, we did pretty well, and we actually took out Crusade army, a number of different armies and vassals, actually. And then we also took 2 fiefs, and indeed our allies even took Erzina Castle, which is really nice. Oh, it seems like Akisa Castle is actually coming under siege, so I'll probably go over there and try and dismantle that army in just a second, but yeah, I don't think I really need to worry too much about it. Anyway, I thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.